Good evening everybody, Joe Pal Martin Millett here. I hope you're going well. Today it is Wednesday, the 2nd of June 2021, and it is a very special day today for me because on this day 4 years ago in 2017 I basically got in a bus with a large two-wheel bag and I travelled from Birmingham to London. Now, I have travelled from London to Birmingham, or Birmingham to London, many times since 2011. But this time, I was moving to London. You see, I previously moved to Birmingham 3 times in July 2015, April 2016, and December 2016. And all 3 times, I didn't get what I wanted. I wanted a good job. I always had a nice place to live in Birmingham, even if I had really crap housemates. So I get on the Megabus and I go from Birmingham to London in like 3 and a bit hours. Sometimes it's 2.5 hours depending on traffic. Now I was going to see Fate's Warning that night at Camden, but after having a really bad doner burger in Birmingham, I had like awful bowel movements. So I checked into my accommodation at Seven Sisters, and this is where I stayed for the first month. The next day was the London Bridge terror attacks that happened, and I remember I was so scared when that happened. I was at home, and I was like playing on the laptop, and I was writing a message to my mum saying I don't know what to do, and Mum was suggesting, oh, why don't you just come back to Australia, it's much safer here. My mum gave me 1,500 Australian dollars, and she says, here's 1,500 Australian dollars, book yourself a flight back to Sydney. I was so close to putting in my credit card details for this flight on the Philippines airline from London to Manila to Sydney. But then all of a sudden, I couldn't read the security code at the back of my Australian debit card. I thought to myself, you know what, 1,500 Australian dollars is a fair amount. Maybe I can get by, maybe I can get my first ever job in London. I'd already left behind a bad job 2 months prior in Birmingham because of those xenophobic abuse I had in this like one job, so I was really doubtful. And then I signed up to this agency and they wanted me to work at the Hilton Hotel, like somewhere in central London. And this was going to be another crappy 0-hour contract, temporarily job that basically, that wouldn't give me a good paycheck. Seriously. Like, even some of the businesses I applied for, they wanted to pay me outside of London rates, which I thought was substantial and not right. Because basically, everyone knows that London pays more than the rest of the United Kingdom. Instead of going to the Hilton Hotel for this stupid job, I chucked a sickie. I basically said to the woman, I can't make it today, I've got anxiety problems. And I travelled all the way out to Putney Cemetery, and I found the grave of Sandy Denny. And it was at the grave in Putney Vale that Sandy Denny's spirit comforted me. I felt like she put her arm around my shoulder and she said to me, Martin, you've had a tough couple of months dealing with xenophobia on your job in Birmingham, and you've been punched out on Broad Street. And basically people are turning you down for basic jobs. Her spirit encouraged me to stay in London because if I had gone back to Australia, I would have lived a really shit life. I would have been horrible having to pay 36 Australian dollars for prescriptions. I would be pretty sad because I hate that country. And I wouldn't be living up to my father's expectations. He basically wanted me to live in London, and that's what I wanted to do. I want to make him proud. So a week after the meeting with Sandy Denny's spirit in Putney Cemetery, I got my job in East London. And the day I started this job was actually the day of one of my young cousin's birthdays in New Zealand. So that's how I never forget his birthday. 2 days after I signed my first job contract in London, I went to Cambridge to meet my mum's cousin. She hadn't seen me since I was 5 years old, and we had just so much to catch up on. And she has always been like a mother-like figure to me in this country. As you know, my biological mother is 10,000 kilometers away, and I haven't seen her since 2016. So, when I need kind of advice, and my mother's out of reach, I always call my cousin. Now you think to me, oh Martin, so you got a job in London, what was your next port? Like, did you try to get a house to live in? And the answer was, for the next few months, I lived in like number 8 hostels. I stayed in a hostel in Shepherd's Bush. I stayed in number 8 hostels in Tottenham and Edmonton Green. So after 3 months in hostels, I paid a deposit and I moved into this house I could describe as a manure hellhole. Basically, there were a lot of Italian migrants in this house. They were smoking. Most of them couldn't speak English. And a lot of them would be asking xenophobic questions like, well, why are you here? And I feel like saying, well, why are you in the United Kingdom if you can't speak English? Because, you know, I have this deep dislike towards Italian people because it's kind of hereditary on me because of what happened to my great uncle in Libya in World War II. And also the people, you know, who leased me this room, thanks to one room, basically they stole my rent money out of my room and lied to me. And I thought this person who took my rent money was Spanish, but years down the track I figured out De Rossi is actually an Italian surname, so yet again another Italian screwing with me. I spent my whole first year in London living youth hostels, all because of that screw up. But, you know, living in hostels gave me a lot of freedom. You see, in November 2017, I left the United Kingdom for the first time in 11 months, and I went to Georgia, Armenia, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. I went to 4 countries, and Armenia was quite special to me because it was my 60th nation. And then next month in December at Christmas I went to Malta. Then in January 2018 I was in Norway. February 2018 I was in Vatican City. March 28 I had a good 4 days in Belarus. And then April 2018 and also May 2018 as well, I went to Iceland. At the time of my 1 year anniversary in London, I was getting really fed up with basically my situation of like living in a hostel and having to do so many days of work in a week and having like really bad management that I was just so angry. I could have walked out and quit, but I didn't. I resigned. I left London on the 17th of June 2018 and I didn't come back for 2 months. I went to live in Stockholm, Sweden with the hopes that somebody in Sweden would give me a job. But the people in Sweden are really xenophobic against anybody of any colour who wants to move there, always asking, oh, why do you want to move to Sweden? Well, it's none of their business. So, after 2 months away from Britain, I came back. I moved back into London, and then I lived with a Jamaican lady for a couple of months, and then I was back into a couple more months of living in hostels. But the important factor was that I regained my old job back, thanks to some good negotiations, and this is the job I still have to this very day. I'm very grateful to live in London, because many years ago I would never want to live in the city. I always used to think Birmingham was so much better because there was less people. It was all because, you know, one day in June 2013, I was at Victoria Station just checking my phone, and all of a sudden this argy-bargy person like raced past me and like pushed me over. And I thought, hell, that would not happen in Birmingham. But as the years went by, I tend to figure out that Birmingham was really xenophobic, racist, and not really a nice city to like live in. I know a lot of people who travel up and down this country, a lot of people who've lived their entire life in the United Kingdom, and they all don't have good things to say about Birmingham. When I started going to a church in Quinton a couple of years ago, I met a couple who were married in London, originally from Kingston, but they ended up moving to Birmingham and starting a family, and they're still there to this very day. I do keep in contact with them, but literally, I don't think I could ever live in Birmingham ever again in this lifetime. I will continue to live in London for as long as I can, no matter what situation like happens. So, there are a lot of people in this world, you know, who like doubted that I could live in the United Kingdom. A lot of people in Australia, some family of mine in New Zealand, my dad's family in Middlesbrough. They all doubted that I could, you know, hold down a job in London. They all doubted I could stay here for 4 years. Well, I don't talk to any of these people anymore because I just see them as wankers. and in my opinion they can all eat humble pie. Because as I've always said, I would rather be on a 6-hour flight to Beirut than a 6-hour bus ride to Middlesbrough. And I always tell people that I'm really proud that I was born in Hornsby, Australia and not Middlesbrough. Because if I was born in Middlesbrough, I totally would have become a chav and I would have been a dad at 20 years old. Anyway, this is Martin the Millhead here, over and out.